Dear friends, welcome back. I hope you're nice and refreshed. May I ask you to take your seats, because we're going to continue the conversation right now on this stage. Now, as we've already heard this morning, dual use has become the new reality of space. And the EU, among other players, now sees space as both a strategic and a security domain. So linking civil innovation with defense needs. And this next panel will exactly look what that shift means in practice, but also in policy. The discussion will be moderated by Liias from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications. Among the panelists, you have Nick Marshall from GMV, who already gave us a great keynote, and Meelis Seedre from KappaZeta. And as Paul noted, please look at the QR code, go to Mentimeter, because you're going to actually need it during the panel. Paul, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Hannes, and thank you everyone for attending the conference. And today we are talking more now about dual-use technology aspects and how the policy making has changed in the recent years. And it's very good to talk about the policy making with the industry, because I, as a policymaker, I have of course my own opinion, but it's also very good, I think, to have the reflection and how the industry sees how the environment as such has changed. So, test. Some issues with technology, that's normal. We have to get used to that. And during the panel, I will also have 3 word clouds. So there are 3 questions that we will test. Nice. So there will be 3 questions that we will ask from you, and you can submit a word to express your feelings about that. And so everyone, there was a QR code. I think we will see the QR code again here. Please scan it. And the first question will be a keyword that comes to your mind when you hear dual-use technologies in space. So in a few minutes we will open the word cloud so we can see the feedback also from the audience. And I think today we don't even need to define dual-use anymore, because everyone knows what the word means. And if you're talking about the space segment and space technologies, then it's clear it's connected to Earth observation, GNSS, secure connectivity, also SSD technologies. And when I started in working in the ministry, and it was years, decade ago, then one of the first tasks was to prepare for the Estonian EU presidency in the EU Council. And we were not really allowed to talk about defense back then. The main keyword I remember still from 2017 were the socio-economic benefits. So how we help the economy with space technologies. And security and defense was really not a word mentioned back then. In 2020, it was exactly during COVID time, I was invited to Air Force conference in France. So I was under the 5% civilians in this conference, and the only one not wearing a blue or green costume. It was a very interesting experience for me, and I was invited there to talk about the Estonian experience in space, since Ministry of Economic Affairs is responsible for that. And the main message in 2020 I got from the conference is that we need more weapons, we need stronger weapons. And it was back then I was like, wow, it's mind-blowing. Because you go more into the defense sector, and there the messages were already clear. We actually need to use not only weapons, but also space systems. And so for me, coming from the civil sector, it was surprising Today, if you go to a space event like ours, it's very common that we are using more about the military and defense aspects. And so we can see it also now in European Union all the time, and EU DEFIS is, DG DEFIS is doing also a lot. And what we can also see is from the vision document that the Commission published in June, it's the vision for the European space economy, and it gives also very interesting direction, which is connected to defense. Also military maybe was not mentioned there, but defense, and it gives a idea in which direction the European Commission is planning to invest in the next decades. So it's, I think, overall the change what we have seen. So not supposed to talk about defense, but now it's very public. And therefore, I think it would be very interesting to see your or hear your experience about from the industry perspective. So what has what's the difference now? So how are you seeing the change in the space domain? And I think it's also very interesting because GMV is a very established company, a well-known player in the European sector, and also the speaker is also outside EU, so to have not really only the European Union perspective, but this perspective overall from Europe, and later, of course, to ask Meelis from KappaZeta, which is a small startup company, so we see the two different perspectives. So Nick, I would start with you at first. So.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. So I have the unique perspective, I think, as well, of seeing through military eyes as well as through the commercial eyes within GMV. And you're right, there has been a shift and a change. And I think there are a number of points that I'd like to make in this opening remark. One of the biggest points from me that I've noticed is the shift away from big ticket items. So in defense spending, battleships, aircraft carriers, aircraft, even satellites. These are big ticket items. But from the UK's perspective, with the strategic spending review and the strategic defence review and the spending review, there's been a move to a 20-40-40 approach. I think that's relevant here, and I'm going to explain what that means. So 20%, those big ticket items. They're still important. 40%, small ticket items, low price, almost disposable, consumable. These disposable assets. And the other 40%, still cheap, not disposable, almost consumable, but cheaper assets. So this 20-40-40 shift is reflective of the world that we now live in. And we see that as evidenced by the platforms that are being used in the world stages at the moment. Certainly Ukraine is an example. So what? What does that mean? From GMV's perspective, considering dual use, all of our technologies could be used. I think Elliot from UKSA in the previous panel said that you could almost remove the word dual and just consider use. But there's been a reluctance to acknowledge the dual use aspect. There has been a bias towards the space for good and civilian use of technologies and systems. I hope I don't offend my UK Space Agency colleagues when I use the example of the national ADR mission, which I mentioned before. The elephant in the room for me was, this has an obvious implication and application. So I feel that the conclusion to my remark is, using the 20-40-40 split that we now currently have, is that it's been down to the supplier to identify the dual use potential and look across all of our products and services, because up until very recently it's been the elephant in the room. And it goes without saying that more and more organizations are now understanding that without scaring anyone, we are on a war footing. And they are the actual words that are currently used.
Thank you for this perspective. Before I give the word to Meelis, maybe let's have a fast look on the screen. So Military is the main word that comes in mind. Military creates opportunities for Earth observation to get more money.
Yeah.
It's the overall conclusion. Meelis, what do you think about that coming from the Earth observation sector?
Yeah, KappaZeta, headquartered in Tartu and grown from the Tartu Observatory. We have big plans, as some of you know. We are on a mission to have the first Estonian commercial satellite mission with SAR receivers, and the military aspect, like you said, Paul, in the beginning. Let's say pre-big war was no, and for obvious reasons, we all as humans hope that we can get by without war, but that just proves not to be the case, and we really restricted our innovation and technology development in this regard, and I guess some other actors, bad actors, didn't. Which now we can see that, it was maybe too idealistic world that we lived in, but today here we are. It's not even really a question. I mean, like if you have satellites, and I'm talking from a perspective, for example, of our future satellites, like data is coming in, like to say that no, although this has applications in the military or in observation that can help, that we won't use it is you can't even say that. That doesn't even make sense. But this is a big shift because for funding, which is necessary for all those developments and missions, at some point you could not talk even about military uses, and even now, like defense is kind of preferred many ways, and in Europe we didn't rename something Office of War or something like this, but the reality is harsh, and so for us a very clear question is focus. So we are releasing the satellites, data will come, but you can't just focus on everything. There's many applications for SAR, for example. You can have different products, but currently we are focusing on forestry. We do have agriculture in development also, and in our focus, but defense absolutely there, and that this is the actual shift. So at some point, you kind of dabble a little bit, like should we? We are a small company. When somebody might get a bad notion of the military, because I mean, even today there's still people who believe that we can do without war, but the defense aspect is important for us, and now this helps us to get funding, for example, very clearly, because of course everybody knows there will be a lot more money in defense, and if you are dealing with something in dual use like that, that's exactly what we're going to do. Forestry, defense, they are there.
Yeah, please, Nick.
I have an interesting remark, I believe, based on a recent experience, which is relevant to one of your earlier comments about the human impact and the morality of this. So I have a number of staff who are openly pacifist, and for them they do not want to be associated with anything that is on the pointy end. Yeah. And I understand that, and I respect that, and it is a challenge within a workforce, and I have to explain the difference between the red team and the blue team, where we can still invest and be a part of defense, but from a defensive capability, not an offensive. Because absolutely, and it's their human right to not want to be involved with anything at the sharp end if they choose it. So it really registered with me.
I would love to come to the pacifistic aspects back later. But one question I would ask you both actually here at this stage is that considering that the space or the defense sector has been actually the main customer for the space sector anyway, so it has been one of the main drivers. Are we talking about secure or communication in general or Earth observation? And then actually, has there been really a change? Because has there been a change content-wise because the customer was anyway one of the leading customers, defense? Is it as the only thing that has changed is that we are now openly talking about it, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask a question. Is anyone from defense in the room? Okay, anybody who works in the military and is here to give their customers' perspective? So I have a problem, and I don't know if this problem is shared. In the UK, we have lots of these events. So far, for me, this has been a better event than many of the events that I've had in the UK, but the customer's never there. So with the evolving landscape of change, I would like to hear Defence's perspective on what we're proposing to do and what their view of the shift towards dual use is. Because you're right, a lot of the money and the historical funding has come from defense, but as space is now more accessible to anyone than it has ever been, and with the massive uplift in commercial interest and investment in space, what is their view? My second point is, because of that significant investment historically from defense and government, I feel that the sector, certainly from the UK perspective, has been artificially propped up. So we have inflated artificially the sector that when the funding runs out, the companies drop off the face of the planet. And it has created a perilous pit of failure that space companies can be presented with. There is a famous story of a company called Reaction Engines in the UK. And when the funding expired, they're gone. Yet MOD was heavily invested in that for hypersonic missile, air-breathing rocket engine technologies, etc. This is unfortunately confined to the history books now. But my view is, in answer to your comment, yes, the money has come from defense. The world has changed. It's now being commercially successful, not just about the funding. Let's be commercially successful. But where are defense to talk about it?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Meelis?
Yeah, so clearly, I mean, military innovations throughout history have given us, I mean, so many things. And that's because with this, I don't know, fear or competition in war, I mean, you just put more effort and money in that will result positive side effects. And so, for example, in KappaZeta's case, when the idea of having our own mission was born, it was at the time when defense was still a no-no. So it wasn't like a defense-driven pursuit at all. And we found a part where we can do vegetation data acquisition, and then we realized along the way that there is application in defense. So I think we would have not do what we do if we would have only thought about defense. But now having this part coming in is very important because, you know, I'm here and we are in these circles, and yeah, I want to talk to the customers also, and we have people working with this every day. We are now passing all the security clearance procedures, which are intense and necessary. And then in our mission preparation, there are aspects, military related aspects that we can consider that make it more useful in the future. Yeah, so it's a positive effect for development, and yeah, with the other issues we will discuss later probably.
It's very interesting because of course normally for the industry, it's very important to know, understand what are the requirements and what from the customer perspective and what are the clear needs. And what I understand, still it's a challenge, but what has been your experience? So you basically have to teach more the customer what are the opportunities, and it's not the other way around that the customer comes directly to you with the requirements, what they want, or how to see it, maybe short.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, please.
All right. Yeah. So actually, I have a policy background myself, and so I know. Well, one thing I with the policy is that it can be slow, or I mean, democracy is slow. That is not an advantage of democracy, and so it's important that now Europe moves along fast to not have any bottlenecks there that will halt development. But the policy is not really like today a problem, but yeah. So I mean, anyway, in our case, we are in a kind of a new playground which we are taking seriously and working to benefit.
It's no wonder that the Chinese are very quick at developing things. My own frustrations, I shared a few in my keynote earlier, are around policy and procurement and the timescales. As I said, the world has changed. Technology has evolved. Policy and procurement needs to evolve with it. I do have a solution. From my experience, it's all about relationship building. It's about getting out, meeting the customer, understanding their problems, not their needs, quite, because often, like you say, they're unable to, through no fault of their own. On a tangent, in the military in the UK, you're in a post for 3 years. Everyone at Space Command joined at the same time. So 3 years later, they're gone. If you're not in a handover notes, you're not considered for the next round of incoming. So it's very important to build those relationships. I'll use one example. There were a team at DSTL looking for some electronic warfare and electronic countermeasure capabilities. We, the company I was working with at the time, Gunhild Earth Station, had a relationship already with them that we'd been building up and nurturing. We understood their problem, and we went away and built a solution in order to advise them of what the requirements might be, in order for them to release a tender with those requirements for us to submit a proposal. I mean, that's creative accounting if I've ever seen it, but the real important thing is building those relationships.
It's very good advice and very short.
Yeah, I just about the product and which kind of product you make. Do you think you make the best product yourself, and then you like go, where do you want it? Look how it's so good, so nice. I mean, it's a collaboration because, of course, not everybody in military knows all the opportunities, and not everybody in Earth observation knows what the military might need. So you have to come together. You have to talk. You have to have projects, but essentially you have to solve a real need. I mean, just doing something for fun, no, that you won't get funded anyway. So you will together find a way that is a mutual goal and a product then that you know that they want to buy.
Okay, I have next question to the audience, and the next question you can answer is a keyword that describes the biggest opportunity or threat you see in the defense space crossover. So what is the keyword for the biggest opportunity or threat? And as a next question, I would love to go to the pacifistic topic that we also described, you started already earlier, and it's clear that many constellations even and many companies have this idealistic look at the world, because we want to make the world a better place. And when they started the companies, then defense was a clear no-go, but actually defense was also one of their customers. So what do you see? Is it more a threat to the industry to have this also a very strong pacifistic mindset in the space domain, or is it good to have this balance between more this idealistic world and ready to kill? So
a balance is really important to keep us all in check. You know, we can disappear down a rabbit hole of previous experience and find ourselves blinkered by the doomsday scenario and really heavily having to influence our decisions, both consciously and unconsciously, from a biased perspective. I really value the opinion of my fellow human beings at work, my pacifists. I wouldn't ever call them out on that. I think it's really valuable to understand why we're all here. And for me, why we're all here is space for good. Absolutely. But as long as there is someone who's considering space for bad, we must also consider what that might look like in order to protect the space for good. Now, before the Second World War in the UK, there was a company that made racing aeroplanes, and they were flying boats, and they used to compete in the Schneider Trophy. And there was one plane in particular, the Supermarine, that was the winner of all the competitions. It was this wonderful flying boat. The threat of war breaks out, and all of a sudden, that Supermarine loses its floats and becomes the Spitfire aeroplane. The designers that had the intention of producing an aeroplane to win competitions, for good, for fun, ended up being directly responsible for one of the most lethal killing machines in the whole of human conflict. That is a scary thought. But we need to understand both sides, the reasons for us being here, and have that balance.
Thank you. Meelis?
Yeah, I mean, in our company, we have also people who are very uncomfortable with the military applications, and that's why. I mean, So the point is, nobody. I mean, no normal people don't want to kill other people. Like that's just being human, and we understand it very clearly. And then where is the line of where you help to achieve that in some way? So defense, it's to defend yourself. Can that lead somehow to a situation where your technology or your data help to kill someone? That's the terrible thought, and that's just some people fully just will not deal with those things. But it's totally gray. I mean, it's not like there is a clear line, and here this is good, this is bad, and so. But we have to realize this. That is the reality, because if we don't innovate, if we don't invest, and if we don't work, then some bad actors, competitors, I don't know, countries or people who want to have a lot of more power than they have today, and if they outcompete us, then, I mean, who's to blame? It's us. So now it's just necessary, and this, of course, you know, in Europe will be done in maybe in different ways than in other parts, but we have to realize that we can't just keep talking. We have to get to real solutions, and the policy has to come along, and we have to be realistic. So yeah, humans are diverse, and then in our industry, this is now our everyday life. Well, one short comment also is that it's similar with investors, because there are investment funds for military purpose defense, and there are green funds which, for example, explicitly say that we do not invest if you deal with defense. And that's a real thing for us. So because now we could just, theoretically, we could say, okay, no defense, let's go that route, but it's you know, the reality is perhaps going to the defense way.
There are many interesting keywords that you mentioned, but let's have a short look at these first clouds. And money and transparency are one of the key keywords coming out. So what do you think is money, or let's say defense money more specifically, an opportunity, or is it even a threat? Because if there is too much funding. So how do you see it?
Well, at times of crisis, we dig deep, and we're digging deep into our pockets. Threat drives change and innovation. We've enjoyed a dividend of peace for a long time, and that's changed now. The threat that is at our door, that presents to everyone, whether you're talking about the threat of the border here, with those conspiracy theorists out there talking about 3i Atlas and the impending doom of the human race, that's for another conference, I'm sure. However, the threat of change impacted by war is driving innovation. The money has become available. You know, look at the COVID response. The national response rallied together. That war footing to address problems created solutions. War drives technical solutions. Some of them can be for good. So the money that is available is a necessity to, yes, war is profitable. I hate to say it, but it is an absolute necessity to drive that change in innovation. Let's just be transparent about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, so the question is whether money in defense could be a problem. I will answer from KappaZeta's perspective. Absolutely no. I mean, like, this gives us another avenue of resources, because now we've said it many times. Everybody knows that the money is there, and you. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine how this could be a problem. No, I can't. I don't have an idea about that. So basically, yeah. Before we were going the forestry road strongly, and now we see that if in this road there's also defense, this helps us. This helps us just very clearly.
It worries me where it comes from, though, the money. You know, we rob Peter to pay Paul. The USA are looking at 3.6 trillion for the Golden Dome. Where is that money coming from? I do wonder, and certainly whilst we've all got to increase our percentage of GDP on defence for obvious reasons, it's got to come from somewhere. Perhaps the benefit is in being more efficient, but that's it.
Well, sorry, just like, I mean, to imagine that you could have some, dirty, bad money coming to help Europe to build its defense capabilities, that seems, yeah, probably not happening, but there could be money coming in to disrupt that. You, in your presentation, you spoke about a lot of those things. So it's possible that there is money that is meant to create problems for us, and I mean, Russia is super good at that. Like, that's really masterclass.
Yeah, I think overall the word cloud summarizes very well. It's very important ethics, how we use the funding, also in a transparent way. So from where the money is coming from, how it's used, and of course then money itself, so the funding. And while we are also continuing on the funding aspect, then what do you think? Because at the moment we have, it's up to the industry. The industry is looking at the main aim of the industry is to create the profit, right? You have to profitable. And if now the industry can choose between space or defense to build a scientific mission which goes, I don't know, looking for the stars, or to build defense applications. And today I think the European industry is struggling, and they are more looking into the defense sector than space. So what do you think on that? Is it a good thing? Will it push for innovation in 1 or 2 decades later? Or how much should the government now look on these profit margins on space projects to help the sector to grow?
Sure. I'm going to delve into the history books for another quick fire lesson on what happened in the UK in the beginning of the Second World War, well, middle of the Second World War. So back in 1943, £100,000, so a lot of money back then, but by today's standards, was put into building a novel machine to break the Enigma code. in Bletchley Park, and it was done in secret. There was a risk taken to drive innovation, driven by a new emerging industry that did not have a foothold. That created the foundations of every modern computer and artificial intelligence that exists on this planet through the Alan Turing Institute, etc. You know, the rest is history. Why am I making that point? Well, with defense investment, we can drive innovation. The byproduct of that in space is going to be the development of our technologies and creating the new normals and our future trends and our future use, how we day-to-day interact with space, even more so than it is now. Do it the other way round. Defense can't be a byproduct, which is how I think we're looking at it at the moment. So I believe it requires the moonshot, large-scale investment, big ideas in order to, through taking risk, affect change.
Okay, very good. Meelis, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I will now maybe talk about something that maybe is like, anyway, it's not like direct benefit for company, so to speak, but basically it's becoming a new word, which is defense washing or military washing. I mean, greenwashing, everybody knows what that is, and it's not very hard then to imagine what defense washing can be, because this influx of resources is very attractive for everybody. And you know, I sit here and say, like, we have, you know, a satellite mission where we will get data, and we see that there is use for military applications, but there will be players which will have a similar story, but the reality will maybe not be there. And so you have to be now extra careful, because, you know, like with big power comes great responsibility. I mean, with big money, you gotta be like, you know, it's the new situation for the funders, and like, you know, like the military spending that Estonia will do, you know, per capita, as you might know, is you know, major effort, and this is coming very fast, and you have to adapt to that, and you have to then make good decisions, and this whole infrastructure, and it has to be built up super fast. And then with the funding, you have to be smart and really you know, make sure that this goes for a good use, and then good things can come out even from small countries like Estonia. Has some cool examples, and you know, we want to be one of those in the future. And this defense part is a positive reality there.
Thank you for that. I think greenwashing is also refers to defense washing, because normally it's referred to as the green sector. But now we go to the final question, number 3, and to the audience, not to you. So which keyword describes the bold steps Europe should take next in space? So now we would go to the next, maybe, block, which is more the future outlooks. And what do you think about, for example, the new EU policy initiatives? Will they help to build the strategic autonomy of Europe, for example? So what's your point of view and point of view on the situation today?
Yeah. So we are, as industry, as an offering, enabled by policy, enabled by EU programs and UK programs and our national programs. We're in a unique position to present value for money. Previously we were talking about the money side of things, and the thought that came to my mind is that it's much cheaper for us to do it than it is for governments to do it, and certainly for defense to do it. And the enablers of this are the policymakers. Create the framework to allow companies to step into the void and thrive, not fall off the face of the earth, like I mentioned, that reaction engines example. And we, in turn, similar to the georeturn, we provide excellent value for money by doing it well, doing it efficiently, and doing it cheaply. We sit in a grey area in this world at the moment where the threat is building with this. I use the analogy of the frog in the water. That's the pan. So the pan has been turned on, but at a very low heat, and the frog is sitting there and is thinking, "I'm enjoying this cold water. You know, this is nice." And slowly it heats. Slowly it heats. And then suddenly it's dead. You know, we're in this grey area of sub-threshold attack, subversion. There's the two or two not dual use our systems, our services. The policymakers are the gatekeepers to enable us as industry to step in. And I think that only together and by stepping into that void with our value for money are we going to do that. So I would really lean heavily on embracing this policy shift because it's the only way forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it took a while for EU to realize the severity of the situation, and I mean, we have been Estonians forerunners of these messages. Our understanding of Russians and is much different from what it is in West. I mean, it's better. You know, Kaja Kallas is right now in this position, using her knowledge and understanding to improve those aspects, and so EU is coming along. Could it do it faster? Absolutely. You know, like I started, we can't get stuck. I mean, we don't have. This is not an option. But democracy, you know, still has its rules, and we can't start breaking all the rules either. So what's very interesting now with UK is that, you know, one of the reasons for Brexit was we are going to do our own things. We're going to be better. You can now do that. You have this opportunity also in the space industry. And of course, I guess, you know, you still want partners, you still work with the EU and all of that, but we are on the right track of changing the policies. And like I said in the beginning, it's I mean, I don't see it right now as holding us back. Like we just change one policy and then boom. Like it's a gradual process. And we have to keep it in mind, of course, like, you know, wherever we are asked to come and give an input for policy formulation and how it could be okay for us. And this is what we do. And I mean, basically, I would say, yeah, listen to the Baltics, the Nordics, especially listen to Estonians, and let's move those things along, and let's adopt the policy. It's absolutely crucial, and let's work hard on that.
Yes.
Often written into those policies are these self-destruct lines, though, and we need to be more comfortable with risk and taking risk. So in the UK, we have a national separable disclaimer that goes underneath all of our systems, and I understand why. You know, we have to be nationally separable, but with our friends and partners within this landscape, I think we can afford to take a bit more risk and not pull those plugs when needed to. I'll say it again. I was a Remainer when it came to the Brexit question, but that's a conversation for the coffee break.
Yes. What to think about the workload that we are seeing in front of us? So, risk-taking is clearly one of the keywords. I really love this EU flag on the moon, which is small, unfortunately. More funding, again, so our audience is focusing very much on funding and EU sovereignty. So maybe one sentences each. So what do you think?
For me, it's taking risk. Failure is not an option. Let's go.
Yeah, it's obviously very good audience here. This is very nice to see. I want to make a picture to remember those points. But yeah, I mean, I should say another thing than risk taking, which is the biggest one in the middle. But it's true that you have to realize that things will fail. A lot of things always fail, but you're going to do a lot of things, and not everything will fail. And so, just it's good to realize that it's a normal part of progress. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the risk-taking personally. I think Europe and also the policymakers and also industry investors have to take more risks in Europe to be more successful. There are also many interesting questions online we have received, and I think many of them can be discussed further during the coffee break, because they are some of them are philosophical and need more time. But there is a very good question. One of them is very especially good. It's not mine. It's a former NASA head said, "Policy is where the budget is." Today, this is defense. Do you agree? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, I have to ask you to repeat the question.
The former NASA head said, "Policy is where the budget is." Today, it's defense. Today we have a defense budget.
Yeah.
Means it's more defense policy. Do you agree with that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Meelis?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they are connected and they drive each other. And in some way, I mean, it's a little bit philosophical question, like what comes first, because it's needs-based. I mean, we are not talking about this because we want to, basically. We don't really, everybody would prefer not to talk about those things. And so it's there. I mean, just a fast quote from ESA's Director General is that, ESA, who's been like we talked all this time, that previously not really defense focused. So I said that Aschbacher said that dual use has always been and always will be a part of space. Now we say it. Now it's very clear. Like people in high positions say it. So it's like the shift has been done. Now it's the working part.
I would still invite defense into this conversation and to be here.
So, thank you. So time is out at the moment. We can continue the discussion later during the coffee break or in the evening during the networking. And maybe just to summarize, then I think that it's very important to continue exactly the dialogue between the industry and defense to really understand the requirements from the defense sector, and also that the defense sector understands the opportunity that the space domain can offer to it. And it's very important to have, of course, this healthy balance between civil and defense technology, so everyone also working in the space industry will find a niche, and if they don't want to work on, for whatever reasons, for defense technologies, then we should still have this door open to them to be included. And of course, to summarize, the European flag has to be on the moon, and I think Europe must lead, of course, in space, and not only space, but also in defense technologies. So thank you, Nick and Meelis, for coming, and thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, that's it.